Hi, this is John from MJG Education. Today we're going to look at the PTE Academic Write Essay, the Introduction. There's a lot we're going to cover today. We'll go over the test instructions, types of prompts, learn to assess your own work, a 4-paragraph outline, the introduction procedure, things you should know to make you more test-wise, parts of the introduction, neutral statement, concession, and thesis. There'll be a review of the Noun Clause. I'll show you a complete introduction for the prompt we're using, and then a conclusion. These are the test instructions for Write Essay, as they'll appear on your exam. You'll have 20 minutes to plan, write, and revise an essay about the topic below. Your response will be judged on how well you develop a position, organize your ideas, present supporting details, and control the elements of standard written English. You should write 200 to 300 words. These are the different types of prompts you might have to answer to with Write Essay. The advantage-disadvantage prompt, very common. Sometimes they conceal this and they talk about the benefits and the detriments or the benefits and the drawbacks, but they're really saying advantages, disadvantages. Double question and discuss both views are a little rare because you don't have enough time sometimes to deal with them. But in any event, with double question, you would just take one question and answer it in the first paragraph and the second question answer it in the second paragraph. Likewise with discuss both views. But generally with Write Essay, they're always asking you to show both sides of an argument. Problem solution, obviously your first paragraph you're going to deal with problems, the second paragraph you're going to deal with solutions, and of course you have an opinion essay. With the opinion essay you can stay on one side of the argument and give two good reasons. Sometimes people suggest that you have to argue two different sides. No, not for an opinion essay. You take one position and you have two good reasons in 2 paragraphs. Each prompt has a slightly different outline. That's what I'm trying to outline here for you. So by knowing the particular prompt outline, you can start writing without hesitation. Just for example, if it's problem solution, right away you know your first paragraph you're going to deal with problems, the second paragraph solutions. Likewise, one paragraph in advantages, disadvantages will deal with advantages, and in the other paragraph you'll deal with the disadvantages. In either order, it won't really matter with advantages, disadvantages. You can put the disadvantages in the first paragraph and the advantages in the second paragraph. Always remember with Write Essay, you only have 20 minutes, so it's always about knowing the outline extremely well. It's only 13 sentences, so if you just write 13 sentences, you don't have to worry about your word count. You're always going to end up at around 225, but knowing the outline is very, very important. So this is the typical outline. It's always a 4-paragraph essay with Write Essay on the PTE Academic. The introduction is what we're going to be looking at today. Just these first 3 sentences are important to set you up the rest of the way. But notice body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2, they're exactly the same. Topic sentence. A topic sentence is a topic plus a controlling idea. You have to support that controlling idea in your second sentence. Then you give an example. Then you have a closing sentence or a concluding sentence for that paragraph. They're both the same. They total only 8 lines. And that's what's important. You just follow this pattern because you're not going to have time to go back and correct your essay. You have to be able to just write 13 sentences every time. It's automatic. So practice for this is very important. Again, the conclusion, it's only 2 sentences. You just kind of rewrite your thesis statement in the first sentence, and the second sentence you state your opinion and perhaps a future leaning comment. It depends on the prompt. If the prompt is problem solution, here you might, in your second sentence of the conclusion, you might just summarize paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. For self-autonomous learners, self-assessment is very important. So for this Write Essay task on the PTE, write quickly and know the prompts so you'll have time at the end of your essay to ask yourself some questions. And here are some questions you can ask of your own writing that'll help you make sure that you've answered the question properly. Have you answered the question prompt? Okay, sometimes you get distracted and you go off topic. You give a kind of tangential answer. You don't want to do that. Is there a clear introduction and conclusion? The introduction is most important. Does your paragraph topic sentence have one controlling idea? That's what you need, topic sentences for both those body paragraphs. Are there logical connections between ideas? Now, this one I'm not so sure about because you're being marked by an algorithm. How does an algorithm make logical connections between one sentence and the next? I'm not sure how that works, but try and keep them close. Has a variety of vocabulary and sentence structure been used? Vocabulary, 1 or 2 words maybe that are a little less uncommon. Sentence structure, try and get 1 compound sentence and at least 3 complex sentences and you'll be fine there. If you follow an outline of 13 sentences, don't even worry about the word count. They count it on the page when you're writing the exam. You know, you're never going to go over 300. If you do, your screen will turn red, by the way. But it'll always be over 200 if you follow the outline. That's my point. Last but not least, have you checked the grammar, spelling, and punctuation? This is really important because you're being marked by an algorithm, and the algorithm has all that grammar coded into it, so it's going to find any error you make. So that's what's most important. Honestly, I've told people that if you just put it in 4 paragraphs and follow the outline, as long as your grammar is perfect, you'll probably score over 79. The Write Essay Introduction procedure. You have to always ask yourself, do you have a proper introduction? Your introduction should be 3 sentences. A neutral statement. This is just introducing the topic. The second sentence is most important. It's called a concession. I'll explain that in a moment. The second sentence is a concession. You usually use although, while, or even though, and it's expressed as a dependent clause, comma, then an independent clause. This is a very important part of your introduction because generally what you're always going to do is tell the reader both sides of the argument here. And then you'll step into your thesis statement where you choose which side you're going to defend and maybe give an opinion at the end. Here are some things you should know to make you perhaps a little more test-wise for write essay and summarize written text, or the writing section of the PTE. You have an allotment of 1 hour time limit to do the writing section. So this can be broken up in different ways. Summarize written text, you have 10 minutes to complete, and the essay you only have 20 minutes. So there's different possibilities here. If you have 3 summarized written texts, you're only going to write 1 essay. If you have 2 summarized written texts, it's possible that you're going to write 2. Now, about a year and a half ago, this changed. Everybody had 2 summarized written texts and only 1 essay. But that can't be a guarantee. You might get 2 and 2. So finally, we get to what we're working on today, the introduction. The first sentence of your introduction is the neutral statement. So if you're given a prompt like this, medical technology can be seen to increase life expectancy. Is it a curse or a blessing? Now, this prompt you can go in a bunch of different ways with. I think you can turn it into an advantage-disadvantage type prompt, or you can leave it as an opinion prompt. I'm going to develop it a little bit so it looks like an advantage-disadvantage prompt, but I'm also going to answer that last question, is it a curse or a blessing? So you just follow this outline. Number 1, neutral statement. What you're trying to do here is take that first sentence they give you, medical technology can be seen to increase life expectancy, and just rewrite it in a different way. Take the object, life expectancy, and put that first if you want, and move medical technology to the end of the sentence, and just rewrite it so the meaning is the same. That's all you're trying to do. Just take the sentence they give you, rewrite it in a different way, make sure the meaning remains about the same. Here is the first example. Many people who want to live to an old age may depend on medical technology. So medical technology now has been moved to the end of the sentence, and many people who want to live to an old age, an adjective clause was thrown in there, and that kind of defines life expectancy. So this is always the best way to do it. Just rewrite it, flip the subject and object if you can, and just rewrite it so the meaning is the same. I guess first of all we should talk about what a concession is. Concession is just a term that comes from debating, usually. In the West, they'll always try and run it back to someone like Cicero in Rome 2,000 years ago. He used to, debate with the Senate all the time. So a concession simply means to concede ground. I mean, the verb form would be concede. Okay, so you're conceding ground in an argument. You might agree with a point or an opinion your opponent has given in a debate. Okay, so for example, if you state your position, your opponent, perhaps even your teacher, may say, good point. However, your opponent may then go on to take another position in the argument. So it's usually something like someone says something in class and the teacher will say, oh, that's a very good point. And then the teacher will turn around and go to the board and forget about whatever you said and just go on with what he was thinking. But it's a way to show that you have both sides in an argument, and that's what you're trying to do. 2 sides of the argument you're trying to expose in a concession. Why? It's because the next sentence you have is going to be your thesis statement, and your thesis has to be validated. The best way to validate your thesis is to show that you have an argument, that there is two sides, or that there is a legitimate problem that you're trying to solve. Okay? So that's where a concession comes from. You're just conceding ground in an argument to further your point in the next sentence. So here is your concession or concessionary statement. As presented earlier in the previous slide, it's very important that you lay down both sides of an argument. So here with your prompt, it says medical technology can be seen to increase life expectancy. Well, there's two sides to that if you want to see it. Okay, and this is the way I'm handling this prompt. So one side is going to say, yes, it does increase life expectancy, and the other side of the argument is that it doesn't. So you have to come up with reasons for both. Is it a curse or a blessing? That'll be answered in the thesis statement. Just give us a moment to get there. With the concessionary statement, you're going to write a dependent clause, comma, and then an independent clause. Now, there is a trick to this as well. You always put the side that you're not going to defend in your thesis statement. You always put that one first. That's the concessionary statement. Although some people consider medical technology to be a detriment to a person's longevity, comma. That's the one side of the argument you're not going to defend. The yellow highlighted part, the independent clause, this is what you're always going to defend. Others assert it is crucial to living a long life. If you remember that, that always makes your argument coherent, especially when we get to the next slide, the thesis statement. Writing a thesis statement is always easy if you remember what you're trying to do. You're always trying to tell your reader what you're going to do in your essay. So in this case, it's always 2 paragraphs, what you're going to do in body paragraph 1 and what you're going to do in body paragraph 2. So for this prompt, it could look like this. This essay will discuss, and that's the common way to introduce your thesis statement, this essay will discuss the benefits and drawbacks, which is the same as saying advantages and disadvantages, but in a different way. This essay will discuss the benefits and drawbacks of medical technology. Now that's your thesis statement, that's it, it's done right there. But you're going to have to add an opinion to answer that question. Is it a curse or a blessing? But in order for you to understand how to add your opinion, you're going to have to know what a noun clause is first. This presentation is on the noun clause in the object position. So there are a couple of things you have to understand about a noun clause, basically about verbs, okay? If I say to you, I run, you understand what I mean because this is a complete thought. A subject and a verb and a period. I run. It's also considered a sentence as it is a complete thought. However, this is an example of an intransitive verb. And the idea you're supposed to remember here is that it's a complete thought. I run. You don't have to add anything to this to make the person understand what you're saying. However, if you say I like, subject and verb, the same form, you will not know what I like because this is not a complete thought. Like is considered a transitive verb here, so something has to be added to it to complete the thought. And that's the problem with a transitive verb. You have to recognize it's a transitive verb, and then there's different ways you can complete that thought. So we have to add a direct object in most cases to complete the thought. So in this example, we say I like, and then you have to give it a direct object. Now, what you have to understand about English grammar is that you don't have to use one word as the direct object. As you can see, you can create what we call a noun clause in the object position. I think in this first example is the subject and the verb. You have a subordinate conjunction here, that, and then you just add a clause. So to create a noun clause, what follows the transitive verb is a subordinate conjunction, and then you add your clause to it. So, as I said, it's a transitive verb. In this case, the verb would be think. A subordinate conjunction, that, in this case, and a clause, which includes, a clause has to have a subject and a verb, and then whichever way you want to complete it, or use a direct object. That's yours. In here, it's a direct object, subject, verb, and direct object. The earth is flat. Okay, that's the best color coordination I can do there for you. But simply, that's the noun clause in the object position, and we'll start to show you now different ways to use it. So when you're adding your opinion to your thesis statement, you're just going to be adding a noun clause. In this case, the transitive verb is explain, and your subordinate conjunction is why. After that, the clause should be, your opinion should be very short. It should be considered a blessing. You're just answering to the prompt at the top where it says, is it a curse or a blessing? There you're answering the question there. Together, this is a very coherent thesis statement now. This essay will discuss the benefits and drawbacks of medical technology and explain why it should be considered a blessing. Now, the trick here, you're going to go through body paragraph 1 and talk about maybe the benefits, and then body paragraph 2, talk about one drawback, and then you're going to get to your conclusion. In the second sentence of your conclusion, that's where you're going to answer, explain why it should be considered a blessing. And usually at that point, you'll refer back to something in your benefit paragraph. And that's all it is. It's quite simple to do, but it just takes a bit of practice. You have to know what a noun clause is, and this introduction will line you up with a 90 every time. So here is the complete introduction for this prompt. Medical technology can be seen to increase life expectancy. Is it a curse or a blessing? Many people who want to live to an old age may depend on medical technology. Although some people consider medical technology to be a detriment to any person's longevity, others assert it is crucial to living a long life. This essay will discuss the benefits and drawbacks of medical technology and explain why it should be considered a blessing. That's all it is. It's just 3 sentences and it's very organized. If you practice this introduction, you'll do very well on the PTE Write Essay. As a conclusion, you should always know the outline. 4 paragraphs, 3 sentences for the introduction, 2 body paragraphs of 4 sentences each, and a 2-sentence conclusion. Recognize the prompt type. That'll inform sometimes how you handle body paragraph 1 and 2. Follow the outline. It's only 13 sentences long. Finally, make sure your grammar is correct. Above all, that algorithm is going to attack your grammar. So if you get your grammar in the right order, you'll score really well on this part of the exam. You can follow MJG Education on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Tumblr. We'll be updating that constantly, as with our homepage. We specialize in tutorials for the time being, as our website is being developed. So tutorials in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. We also do lots of mock tests that include feedback, oral feedback, if we do them through Zoom. And of course, you'll get feedback in a written form as well. We like to emphasize, too, that we're a Canadian company. You can save 35% if you're dealing with companies that charge you in US dollars. By all means, come back and check us out. We'll save you a fortune. Anyways, thank you very much and have a nice day wherever you are. In the textbook PTE Writing, you can find at least 10 examples of cause to effect and effect to cause, if need be. It also has an extensive section of grammar and lots of essay examples as well.